Bird 232, right heading 235, and report localizer established runway 27 left, Bird 232.
Hello everybody and welcome back again to another video. Today we will be flying the CRJ from Aerosoft from Buffalo to Washington, and this is actually the sequel of our tutorial that we have done earlier about this aircraft. So we're taxiing out to runway 23, and this is not the actual flight. I mean the parameters and everything is the same, but it's a different day and different weather. So today we will be having a crosswind takeoff of around 16 knots. Not the perfect weather to fly in, but this is what we have to deal with. So I loaded everything in the aircraft. I changed a few items here and there. I changed the cruising altitude because of weather and wind have changed. So here's that. I mean, this thing actually had a little bit of a steep learning curve in it. So it's not your actual Boeing or your actual Airbus there. So it's a little bit different when it comes to managing the aircraft and the whole aspect of flying. So here's our vector turn. So we can go ahead and start our checklist once we are holding short there. And as you might see, it's kind of like a gloomy day because of those clouds. So before takeoff, checklist lights and strobes can come on. Fuel X-Flow is an auto. Ignition, we have that on continuous. Transponder is set. Radar and terrain display, we have the weather radar there. CAS messages are cleared and we are good to go.
Approaching 2-3.
So approaching 2-3. Lovely gloomy day to fly in. So we're gonna turn here.
On runway 2-3.
I overshot it a little bit. So we're gonna advance our throttles to 60%. So stable in there. So Targa, and thrust is set. 100 knots there. V1. And gear up. So I'm gonna go ahead and arm our nav.
Low terrain.
That warning there, it's been reported, I think, to Aerosoft a dozen of times now. So we can go ahead and relax our throttles there. Flaps can come up and yeet. to do, so climb, flaps are up, and we're gonna do our speed. So we're gonna go ahead and speed up to 240. And engage the autopilot. So FMS1 climb is 240, we're gonna go ahead and do 250, till 2000 there. Climb checks, light and passenger signs, I'm gonna keep those on. Thrust reversers can come off, already did that. Very cloudy day. If we scroll and zoomed out, so it's not really a very long flight. I think it's about, let me get in here. So if we go to progress page here, so we only have 40 minutes left. So that is very good. Eight 8,000 feet. And we are at 250 almost. The aircraft will start to pick up its vertical speed there. So 2.9, 3,000 feet. And this thing climbs like a rocket. Very good performance. So more clouds to go. Very, very gorgeous weather today. I mean, it was kind of gloomy there on the ground, but so 10,000 feet, landing lights can come off, passenger signs are off. So we'll go ahead and do 290 is our cruising speed. I'm gonna talk you through what we should have later on. So we'll speed up to 290, and once we are at Mach 0.74, and this is actually our cruising altitude. So once we are speed up to 290, so as you might guys see here, we are at 0.5 Mach, and we need to do 0.74 Mach as a cruising speed, and probably that will be above our transition altitude of 18,000 feet. So 12,000 coming along very nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the continuous ignition there as we cleared those clouds. 13,000. If we, I mean, very, very phenomenal weather. The haze, everything in this flight looking very good, and I hope we don't miss that upon descent. So while we are climbing, we can go ahead and review some other things that I have told you about in the tutorial. So this is what usually you will have once we are climbing. So once we are going to descent, all what we have to do is either to have the ignition to continuous or not, and adjust the cabin pressure for the landing elevation there. So our landing elevation today will be almost 50 feet at Washington. 286, excuse me for that. So we're gonna adjust that, and everything else is looking good. $17,000. If we scroll down, so here everything is been set up already, and I have the weather radar on. I have my ATC on, my TCAS set to above, and my navs are set to my localizers that early. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you a little bit of the flood and lighting there. So 18,000 feet, should go ahead and do standard. More clouds to come. So as I said, this aircraft has a lot of potential into it, but it's not really for everyone, as you will be seeing once we are cut to that descent phase. It takes a lot of work to get it right. So you will not take it as granted as if you will on the 737 Airbuses, where they will control your VNAV. This thing is kinda hefty when it goes to workload, especially we are doing one pilot and one for all kinda. So bear that in mind for who's really looking into buying this aircraft. It might not be your cup of tea. So passing 22,000 feet, I'm probably going to cut the video here and see you once we are ready to descend there, guys. So I really wanted to show this for you guys. Once we reached our cruising altitude, the aircraft will begin to gain speed. So the first thing, if you are not actually at Mach speed, you can switch that on to toggle between the speed and the Mach speed. So as you might guys see now, we are passing our 0.74 there. So we're gonna go ahead and decrease our throttles to maintain that 0.74. So once we reach our cruising altitude, the aircraft actually began to speed up more than the 0.74. So what we needed to do then is to kind of decrease our thrust there to match up with the 0.74 speed that we have input there. So bear that in mind. And even on higher altitude, when I tested this aircraft with longer routes, once you passes that 30,000 feet, for example, the aircraft will tend to slow down, and you will need to adjust your your throttle quadrants accordingly. So you'll have to add more power, basically. Otherwise, you will kind of fallen in that position where the aircraft is not actually climbing and it's losing altitude. So that's one more thing that I wanted to say while we are cruising. So we are cruising now at 79.6 on the N1, and we are almost at 0.744. And one last thing before we cut this until to the decent phase here, do not chase your speed, guys. So it's fine if you are way above or below your target speed, but don't go crazy when it comes to maintaining that exact numbers. So bear that in mind. because it's going to get very slippery when we are descending. So there's always some marginal error there. So keep that in mind and stay tuned for the descent phase, guys. So welcome guys to our descent phase of our flight today, and the way we're actually doing it, and this is actually the best way that I have found out that works with every situation is, so once we were at 26,000, I applied what we are going to have as a restriction at the next waypoint. So as you might guys see, we have a 10,000 feet restrictions coming out at 3.5 unit at 3.5 miles. So I went and I inserted that as our targeted altitude there. Then, as you might guys see, I took the 290 as speed and I filled out the MCB panel here and I engaged the speed. So now we have 7,000 feet next waypoint restriction. So we're at 1.6. So I'm going to do 7,000 and hit the speed button there. So 250, and if we try the best way here that I actually learned from a CRJ pilot is to look in the direct to page, so this page here, and the FMS will tell you exactly how much vertical speed you will be needing to actually hit that 7,000. So now we're actually wanted to do 1,100 vertical speed, so but we are on that speed mode. So what's the best way to do that is to decrease our throttles. So now our throttle is decreased and the aircraft will try to maintain that 250 knot speed restriction that I have put in there. So that will actually get the aircraft to make kind of that 700 vertical speed there. So now we're kind of on the over much there. So I'm gonna advance my throttles. That will give the aircraft more power, and therefore it will give it a little bit less harder descent there. So you can see here the what is called the banana, and we need to have the banana as close as much to that 7,000 restriction, or that waypoint basically. So we're almost 5 knots from that waypoint. So what we need to do is kind of increase our power here to meet up with the 7,000 there. So I got carried out by explaining that to you guys. So our next waypoint have the 5,000 feet restrictions, and we're gonna do exactly the same. So one more to try that with you guys so you can get the idea here. So 7,000 is coming up. So usually when we are descending at the beginning of the descent, the power will be set to 65%, then we're gonna lower it to 50%. So coming up, so we can go to 5,000 feet as our altitude restriction there, and hit the speed button there. I'm gonna go 240, and we need to be 500 vertical speed there. So we're gonna slow down, take our throttles back to meet up with the profile there. So 5,000 there, less power to go, and we have the banana. So more power will push the banana kind of forward, and less power will bring it to you. So we're maintaining that 50% on the N1, looking very good. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more power there. So we're approaching that 5,000 altitude. Gonna go back on the throttles a little bit and meet up that 5,000 restriction on the waypoint. So honestly, this is the best way I have found out to actually descend through the profile there in this aircraft, because what's usually is done is you have to calculate that manually, and I have tried several flights and to make that actually works, and I gave up. So I had to know a couple of friends who know some CRJ pilots, and when they asked him, he said like they uses that direct to page to actually see how good their decent rate. So 200 feet on the vertical speed there. So we're gonna give it more power to push the banana away kind of from us, so we can meet up the 5,000 altitude restriction. So next waypoint will be 4,000 feet. And it's up to you guys if you want to do the final to runway there altitude. So some people will say we're gonna do like minimums, for example. I mean, or glide slope. I mean, it's your call, but you will be running in the issue of actually blowing through that restriction, and we don't want that to happen. So let's set our minimums. So our minimum today will be 200 feet. With that set, I'm gonna go to the Dave here, set our landing references there. So our VRF is 132 for today, and coming up on the next waypoint there, so 4,000 feet, I'm gonna go to 4000, hit the speed there, and slow down to 230. So if we look down, we need to be at 700 on the vertical speed there, so we take the throttles back to kind of meet up with that waypoint. So 50% is the sweet spot, honestly, but since we are doing so many things in a very short time, I mean, there's nothing you can do if you kind of going back and forth in the views. So we're gonna go ahead and arm our thrust reversers. Our passenger signs can come on. Lights can come on from our 10,000 feet there. And continuous is set. So 4,000 feet, we are honestly looking very good, except for me actually forgetting a couple of one or two things. But I mean, it's a lot of work to actually go back and forth between those calculations and try to talk and fly at the same time. So bear with me here, guys. Very lovely scenery in Washington. So 4,000 feet. Next waypoint will be again 4,000 feet. So we're gonna advance our throttles to keep up that level and to keep up that 230 knots speed limit. So I'm gonna sync my heading, and I'm about to tell you guys why. The reason is, if I can zoom out, yeah, this is kind of like we have been vectors, and we are using a star today. So this is actually us being vectors, and I don't like flying those kind of sharp corners. I haven't tested what this aircraft will do if we take that sharp turn. I just don't want to risk it, and that's what's normally is done when there is kind of a weird intersection going back and forth with the FMC there. So it's best to kind of fly it manually. We'll put it onto heading mode and fly the approach. So with that being said, we're maintaining that 4,000 feet, looking good in there. So we have some traffic going on here in the area. So that's our airport. So approach check, altimeters, AB unit leads, light and passenger signs. So approach checklist completed. Okay. So before landing checklist, we'll have the landing gear down and flaps as full. We're doing very good. So if we look down here, it will actually tell you that we don't need to do anything for the next waypoint and the next waypoint. But then we're gonna descend to 2900, then 2300. So here you guys have it. The way to actually control this aircraft is by kinda I mean, I wouldn't say cheat. This is what actually the pilot is using. So just access the direct page here and look what the aircraft is telling you to set your vertical speed to. You won't be doing vertical speed because the aircraft will get slippery and it comes in terms of speed. So you will do the speed instead of vertical speed, and that's way better because the whole flight you will have the throttle set to manual, and there's only manual. So when you set it to speed, it's actually better to control it this way, and you manage it better, I believe. I honestly did use the vertical speed, and I blew almost all my restriction. It's become very slippery to toggle between the two calculations there, the speed and altitude. But here, if you kinda get through the mental calculation here, it will get very easy. It's a lot of work, but it's very simple to get hold of it. So gonna cut off the power a little bit less here, so we can match up the speed here. So our next waypoint is 4002, so nothing to worry about here. Let's see down there. So our wireless localizer there is 11.3, 11.3. We are set to go there. Weather radar is set below, and we are maintaining that 230 knots speed. Very good. So I'm seeing the wind indicator there, and we will be landing with almost 15 knots crosswind. I'm not sure about that, guys, since this aircraft is new to me, but I promise you I'm gonna do my best. So I'm gonna sync my heading. For 1,000 feet, and we're gonna maintain it until that turn, and then we're gonna kinda join the carry waypoint and then match up with the glide slope at skins at 2,300 300 feet. So our runway is kind of there. Very lovely scenery. So coming up in 6 miles, is our turn. So I'm gonna sync my heading again to make sure. So heading, and I'm gonna go from FMS 1, so nav mode basically, to heading. So that is done, and we don't need to do anything for the next waypoint. But after that, we will be doing 2,900 on the carry waypoint there. So 3 miles out. Two miles out. And we will start our turn here. And catch up with that 2,900 feet altitude restriction. Hit the speed button, and I'm gonna slow down to 220. I'm gonna decrease the throttles a little bit. So we need to be at 400 feet vertical speed more, so decrease the throttles a little bit more. And we're gonna join the carry waypoint there. More speed to move the banana kinda away from us. Make sure our heading is towards that carry waypoint there. So next we'll do our speed of 210. And we already have our landing elevation, guys, as we have talking about adjusting the landing elevation knob there. So that is good. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. So we're descending very good. It says here that we need to be 200 feet less when it comes to vertical speed. We can do that, certainly. So 210, we have reached our kinda altitude restriction there. We are 3 miles out from the runway, from the waypoint, and probably at that turn I'm gonna arm the approach. So in 2 miles approximately there. Looking good, speed is good. Minimums are set, thrust reversers are armed, and we can go ahead and arm the approach. So localizer and glide slope flash and then solid. So we capture the localizer and glide slope. And from there we don't need to do anything else when it comes to altitude. So for our missed approach altitude, we'll have it set to 3000 and flaps 1 can be set. We'll go speed 190 and decrease our throttles a little bit more. So we already captured the collider. Course is 011, which is correct. So at 190, we need to do, I'm gonna use some speed brake there. So we need to be at flaps 8. Gear down. And we're gonna go ahead and do our veer of speed there. So 138. And flaps can come all the way down. So I'm gonna add more power to kinda match up with our path there.
1,000.
So 1000 to go. The aircraft is trying to match up the glide slope there. I'm gonna let that do that. So approaching 01. At 600 feet, let's go ahead and disengage the autopilot.
500.
Maintain that 138 knots approach speed.
400. 300.
A little bit low.
200. Minimums.
So minimums continue.
Minimums. Minimums.
A little bit
100.
high.
Minimum 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
So reversers are green. Maintaining that center line. With such wind, it's a little bit hard task to do. So manual braking. And we are on the ground, guys. So as you might guys see, this is not really what you can call it an easy task when it comes to flying this aircraft, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I have done almost 4 or 5 flights so far, including this one, and I can't get enough from it. So I hope this actually clarifies some questions that everybody kind of asked regarding the VNAV and how to control the aircraft climbing and descending. So with that being done, I'm gonna go ahead and do our after landing checklist. Here's the mighty UBS, I think 777 there, or the 767, anyway. So there you guys have it. Our flight today from Buffalo to Washington came to an end. So I hope you really did like this video. If you did, please hit the like button and hope to see you in the next video. Take care.